Roger Federer first stepped onto the tennis court as a professional in 1998. This year, more than 24 years later, he announced his retirement. In between, he has achieved everything possible on the court and cemented himself into tennis history. And for many retiring players, the next step is coaching. So, why is Federer already ruling it out? Plus, what makes Federer such a significant sporting icon? Stay tuned for all of that, plus more tennis news coming right up. First up, Federer is feeling lighter. If you only look at the millions of dollars of prize money handed out to tennis players each tournament, it's easy to forget about how much hard work goes on behind the scenes. For most professionals, almost every second is spent training and preparing for the pressure on the court. That's why Roger Federer is happy that he has finally thrown in the towel. He opened up on the toll that life on the tour takes during a tennis clinic he recently hosted in Tokyo. Federer said, "As a tennis player, you're always thinking about your next practice, your next match. It never lets you go. Your next travel, your next packing." For the Swiss legend, he said that he wasn't fully aware of how much stress and pressure that kind of lifestyle puts on players. Now that he is retired, he said that he is feeling lighter and relieved that he can return to a normal life after decades of constant stress. Federer now has a new respect for players that decide to retire at an earlier age and prioritize themselves. He said that he thinks because players are not allowed to admit when they are tired, many of them end up having mental difficulties. Even though they might perform on a level that most ordinary people never could, Federer says that we need to remember that the players are still human beings, not machines. Next, what does Federer think the problem with the GOAT debate is? Looking at the numbers, Roger Federer has had one of the most successful careers of all time. He has been ranked number 1 in the world for a total of 310 weeks, won 20 Grand Slams, and has a record-breaking 8 Wimbledon titles. He is regarded as one of the big 3 along with Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic, who have dominated men's tennis for over a decade and a half. But if you ask Roger about the records, statistics, and comparisons, it doesn't mean much. Talking about the constant debate over who is the greatest of all time, he said that the comparisons take away from the enjoyment of the sport. Federer said, "We like our stats, and we like breaking records. You just became world number 1, and the first question is, how long do you want to stay world number 1, instead of enjoying it?" He thinks that this is a problem for the sport, and you don't have to look far to see what he means. Young Spanish superstar Carlos Alcaraz became world number 1 this year when he clinched the US Open. But straight away, questions are being asked about how dominant he can be against a generation including Yannick Sinner, Casper Ruud, and Felix Auger-Aliassime. And on top of that, Alcaraz is being compared to Rafael Nadal, who just broke the record for the most Grand Slams ever won by a men's player. Federer carved out his own path, taking over from Pete Sampras and Andre Agassi to become the most dominant figure in the sport until Nadal and Djokovic entered the picture. So, with his 2 biggest rivals still competing, he is watching his records being broken. So, why did Federer finally decide to retire? The Swiss maestro has always had a playing style that favored technique over power, compared to Nadal's heavy movements that leave him prone to injuries. Federer was expected to continue playing at least a little longer, but he announced that the 2022 Laver Cup would be his last professional outing, and the entire tennis world came together to send him off. But what was his main reason for giving it up? In the end, his body gave up before his mind. In his retirement announcement, he admitted that the last few years had given him challenges in the form of injuries and surgeries. After a mixed opening half to the 2020 season, where he was knocked off the Australian Open semifinals, Federer pulled out of several tournaments to undergo knee surgery and give himself time to recover. He thought he would be back in time for the grass court season, which is preferred surface, but he ended up pulling out of the season altogether when he needed another surgery. Federer fans were again disappointed in 2021 when he couldn't make it to the Australian Open and pulled out of the French Open. His last major was Wimbledon, where he made it to the quarterfinals but was knocked out in straight sets by world number 10 Hubert Hurkacz. Between then and his retirement event at the Laver Cup, Federer didn't compete at all. At 41, his body is finally catching up with him. He has now had 5 surgeries to repair his knee, and things are only getting worse. It's better to quit now than do permanent damage to himself. Up next, Federer has been spotted practicing on the court again. What does it mean? And could there be a coaching job in his future? Don't go anywhere. What was Federer's key to success? success. Tennis champions come and go, but very few stay at the top of their game for as long as Roger Federer did. He was ranked world number 1 for 237 weeks in a row, which is by far the most any male player has before. So how did he do it? In an interview on The Daily Show, Federer revealed his childhood heroes, which offers a glimpse into how he built such a bulletproof mentality. He said that rather than having tennis idols, he looked up to athletes who were achieving things. Sure, he looked up to players before him like Pete Sampras, who showed him how it was done. But more than that, he looked to other sports for personalities who had managed to do things no one else could. That's why he drew inspiration from Formula One driver Michael Schumacher, golfer Tiger Woods, and basketballer Michael Jordan. He was motivated by how they could stay at the top of their sports for so long. He said, "I always thought it was impossible to do that, to stay at the top for so long and have that drive. But now, when people ask him how he did it, his only response is that it's normal." The key was that he went out on the court each time to win and have fun. And having played at an elite level of tennis for so long, Federer thinks that he really squeezed out the last drop from his career. But is he really finished? Federer was just spotted playing again in New York. Federer's injuries have made him cautious with his body. He admitted that he's scared to play sports because of the further damage it could do to his knee. But that didn't stop him from recently getting out on the court and hitting the ball in New York. He was captured by a camera practicing at the John McEnroe Academy. It wasn't at a public event or promotional tour, so Federer might be trying to get himself back into shape. Or maybe he just can't keep himself away from the court. And the man whose academy he was training has only had good words to say about Federer. After hearing about his retirement, McEnroe said, "Roger is one of the greats, and what he did for tennis is unbelievable. He's given the sport so much. Another player like Roger is going to be very difficult to find." At the Liver Cup, he went even further, describing Federer as the most beautiful player he had ever seen. That's high praise from a legend of the sport, and there hasn't been any shortage of compliments for Federer since his retirement. His former rival, Andy Murray, said he wasn't surprised by how much support there was worldwide for Federer's retirement. Murray was once considered one of the Big Four, but he slipped out of the group from constant injury. But he feels honored to have spent much of his career sharing the stage with Federer, who he described as a sporting icon. Is Federer turning to coaching now? What does a former professional tennis player do once they're retired? Most of them are addicted to the sport, so it's natural for them to turn to coaching after their playing days are over. So, are we likely to see Federer in the coach's box anytime soon? According to Federer, he has other things to do. While he said that he would totally rule it out in the future, he thinks he has enough on his plate to manage his 4 children and his family life. But he also won't be a stranger to the sport. Federer will stay involved with the sport through the Swiss Academy, doing his bit to help junior players coming up the ranks. And if you have a young kid who is determined to be the next big tennis star, you're in luck. Federer will be on hand at the Next Gen Development Program at Uniqlo, which means he will be helping out at kids' day clinics and with mentorship. So the former world number 1 won't be on the professional tour anytime soon, but he is continuing his role as an ambassador for the sport to help find the next Federer. With Federer retiring and Rafael Nadal fighting more and more injuries, it's safe to say that there is a new wave of young tennis players emerging. But Djokovic's coach has warned that the old guard still has some gas left in the tank. Goran Ivanisevic, who has been Djokovic's coach since 2009, has said that the Serbian player is on the rise again and more dangerous than ever. He said, "Djokovic is still hungry. He's playing unbelievable tennis. He's already thinking now about preparation for next season." What do you think about the current state of the Big Three era in professional tennis? Is it coming to an end, or do you believe it will continue for a while longer? Also, do you think that Roger Federer should consider transitioning into a coaching role? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you again in our next video.